Welcome back to another episode of the Be the CEO of Your Life and Business podcast. This week, we are going to be talking about how we are transitioning into the summer months. This always feels like a big pivot, at least for me, because the routine of just every single day, it's same thing for the school, for the kids, for work. It is just you're on autopilot at this point of the year. And then having to make that switch where you pivot to a different routine, a different schedule, it can be a little jarring. So right now, as we are sitting here recording this, it's the very beginning of June. So we have still a few more weeks until the change really starts to materialize and show itself. So we thought that maybe talking about these tips might help other people that are going through this, especially ones where you have kids, just transitioning into those summer months and getting kind of prepared for it.
Yeah, it's always a stressful time. June is, we always say December, like the holidays are such a crazy time. June for me and my family is by far the craziest time of year because we have, spring sports still going, but then the all-star teams for Little League, we still have travel, we have school ending. Kaylee's doing multiple sports. So I was talking to somebody this morning, like, I am never home. I'm never there. And so, especially for this month, it's so important for me to plan for now and also what's upcoming, because if I don't have a plan, it's going to go off the rails. Seriously, my kids start, at least the older ones, half days, I think June 14th. Because they have finals in middle school. So starting either the 13th or the 14th, they're starting finals and they're going to be coming home at 11:30 in the morning. So
not to you, Katina.
Not to me. Thankfully, Mike works from home and the boys are self-sufficient. Like they just come home and do their own thing. But it's a change. It's a big change. So there's lots of chaos incoming soon.
For us, it's pretty easy because Joseph is still in daycare. Nothing changes with that. He just keeps on going all year round. With Olivia, though, it's been really hard for me to transition from that era of daycare to
it's a big change.
What do you do with these kids over the summer when you're a working parent outside the home? And it's like, what am I supposed to do to keep her occupied? She's great. Like she'll come into the office with me and she'll play and she'll have fun, but then she'll also spend time with, relatives of mine, my parents, Joey's mom, whoever. And it's really great. But we actually did something this year that we haven't ever done before. A little bit of a sacrifice to us though. I mean, first world problems here, but we typically go down the Jersey Shore every single, first week of July. It's like our staple. It encompasses.
You've been doing that like as long as I've known you.
Yes, literally. For as long as I have been with Joey Mara, I have been going down the Jersey Shore for 4th of July. And we would take like the entire week. It's right after school gets out. It's like that perfect start to summer. But the problem that we had is that last summer camp for Olivia actually started that same week. So we didn't send her to the first week of camp, which is no big deal. She didn't notice it and she was fine. She, folded right into the mix the following week. But then we had almost 4 full weeks from August to September when school starts again.
Those weeks are brutal.
They are brutal. And now we couldn't readjust with time. Like we couldn't, based on having to deal with other people's schedules and whatnot, especially for Joey's job, like we couldn't schedule a time to take another full week to kind of occupy that week in August. So for us this year, what's been really crucial is we have rearranged when our vacation is going to be. We've put Olivia in camp for the entire, I think it's 8 weeks total. And we're not going to mess with that. The only thing that we're not going to have her in is like probably the day after 4th of July, that Friday. But then we're taking our vacation in August so that it helps me, my stress level, like, okay, she's going to be somewhere and we're also going to all be together to kind of absorb one of those like floating weeks.
So how many weeks does that leave you in August then?
Probably 2.5. Now I'm like, listen, it's better. I'm like cutting away at it, but it's tough. It's so tough.
It's so hard but even if you're home with your kids, like if you don't send them to camp, you have to keep them busy.
Yes.
Like my kids always want to know what we're doing. And especially Kaylee, the boys, they don't really care so much anymore, but even Matthew, now that he's 14, he wants to know, can somebody take me to the gym? Can somebody take me fishing? Can somebody drop me off at a friend's house? All these things where
Yeah.
thankfully Mike and I are both local. So if we can make it work, we will make it work, but we both have jobs.
Yeah.
So it's like, you have to try and quote unquote balance, which, I don't believe there is such a thing, but
Right.
whatever, I can't find a better word. You have to try to balance like what, keeping the kids busy
Mm-hmm.
versus what you have on your plate every
Right.
single day. Thankfully with Kaylee, thank God, she starts camp the day after school ends. So
What a
we don't
godsend.
have any time in between for her.
Yeah.
But, this is Christopher's, 12th year in baseball. So this is the year we go to Cooperstown. So we are going back to Cooperstown, I think the week of August 12th. So Kaylee's going to be missing a week of camp. Then I got to send her back for another week after we get back. But it's like trying to figure out, when are we doing all these things?
Yeah.
So if we have that week, I kind of have to plan around that. But if I didn't think about that way ahead, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah, I mean, we started same concept. Like we started talking about this as soon as we got the information for camp. It was like back in April. I'm like, all right, let's start planning our vacation. Joey's like, huh? What? And I mean, he knows the drill at this point too. Like we have to make sure that, that we don't have conflicts here, taking time off, that he doesn't have conflicts with his coworkers, that he can't overlap vacations with. And, being able to just plan ahead and look those few months out to be like, okay, let's really assess, like, when am I going to need coverage? And for me, the easiest thing that I can do is just set up a chart and figure out how I can, what days I'm going to need to cover for Olivia in some capacity and kind of make that work.
One thing I have started doing, especially over the last month or so, just because our schedule has been so ridiculous. You know how I talked about our Outlook calendar?
Yeah.
And how
Oh,
I
yeah.
took the kids' stuff out because it was just stressing me out seeing everything there. And I
Yeah.
didn't want to bog down everybody else's calendar with my chaos.
Mhm.
So I actually, although I really hate the new Outlook, I hate it. However, you can incorporate other email accounts. So I incorporated my Gmail account in there, which has my family calendar.
Oh, okay.
So you guys can't see it, but
you
when
can see
I
it.
go in to Outlook, I see all of our work stuff, obviously between the hours of like 8 and 5.
Yeah.
And then after that, I can see our family calendar. So that has been really helpful for me. And I've been really trying to be diligent about over the weekend, looking at, do you guys use Game Changer?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So in Game Changer, you have your schedule of events and all of our teams use Game Changer. So I click on events and I can see the upcoming schedule.
Mhm.
So especially with Chris and Kaylee both doing All-Stars for Little League, they have practice every day of the week, which will start soon.
Holy
So
cow.
so that means Mike's not home. So
Right.
he's coaching, he's not around. So I will go in on the weekend, open Game Changer, look at the schedule, and then put that in to my family calendar so that I can see. I don't do more than a week ahead because it stresses me out. So I will put in the upcoming week just so I can see, like,
Yeah.
do I have any gaps of time where I might be able to do laundry? Like anything,
Yeah.
So it's been really helpful to just see that in front of me, like the full picture.
I love that too, because this is the first year that Olivia is doing summer softball, because this year is her first year doing softball. So one of the things that is a little confusing for me right now is that the way that the program is set up, there's two different teams. One is a little bit more advanced than the other team, but if you're on the other team, you're going to get cycled into the more advanced team. So you get time, and it's kind of like, it's like a pre-tryout too for future years and for these coaches. And so, we just got the schedule of all of the games, and there is a game for both of the teams at least once a week, probably at least 2 times a week. Like next week, there's 3 games amongst the 2 teams. And it's just, I saw it and I was like, I'm not going to look at this again until I know which team and which game Olivia has to report to, because it's so overwhelming. Like if I put all of those dates, so kudos to you for just thinking like 1 week at a time. If I put all of those dates into my calendar, my brain would absolutely explode. And then what I have to do is go back and touch those entries again. I want to do it once and be done. So I'm just sitting back waiting, which is a little counterintuitive because I really like planning out like an entire month and just being able to see where's the blank white space. And it's counterintuitive and it's really difficult. But at the same time, if I had to go back in and change things, I'm going to miss it. So I'd rather just look at it in chunks. And I've been relying upon our Google Calendar so much more because Joey and I share one. It's been life
Good for
changing.
Joey, because Mike will not. I could never.
He
won't
is
even
the
look
Lose
at
by
it.
Game Changer because
Forget
that's
it.
the only calendar
Yeah.
he needs to know about. But like, I've been really diligent to keep just a tab open on my computer here because whenever I get an email or I get a text message about like a birthday party or, an event for sports or whatever, I'm putting it in the calendar immediately. I'm inviting Joey and then he has to accept the invitation. And then I
Yep.
know that we're on the same page and it syncs because otherwise these dates get lost if I don't do it right
Get
away.
lost, and it's so easy to miss things.
Mhm.
Two things. Also, it helps me look at where I need coverage at work and also at home.
True.
So, certain things, I've been much better at putting things in the calendar as soon as I find out about them. Like the dates for Kaylee's graduating elementary school, June 13th, which is next Thursday.
Wild.
And Matthew is graduating middle school on June 25th. So
I cannot believe it.
I went to put it in the calendar, it actually in our Outlook calendar, because I'm going to be out both of those days. And I was like, oh my God, I'm supposed to have a court appearance, a motion in Brooklyn on the 25th. So I had to ask Alejandra can you go that day?
Yeah.
But this was like last week. So it gave her enough time to see that I was going to need her on that day because she has kids. So you have to rearrange your schedule to get down to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But had I not put that in the calendar, I wouldn't have realized, and it would have been June 24th. And I would have been like, oh my God.
And that's also, that's just helpful just for a company's practice, right? Especially when you're a small enough firm like ours, like we need to know if there's going to be one of us or both of us or what kind of overlap there's going to be. So me being able to see that in the calendar and be like, oh, okay, so I can anticipate Laura's not going to be here on this day.
Right.
She's got this on this day. And let's just call a spade a spade. Graduation days are days. It's not at night anymore. It's a whole flipping thing. And I recognize that now being on the Board of Education, I literally have something from June 10th through June 20th every night of the week. I might not be attending all of it, but there are certain things that I'm more or less expected to be at, including an actual board meeting. That's going to be one of my marathon Mondays, as I call it. It's chaos. It's crazy.
But if you don't plan ahead, you can't, you need to look a week ahead and then you can say, okay, I need help with Olivia on this day.
Yep.
Or like that happened to me this week because today, actually, we have a baseball dinner that I have to go to for him. It's at it's at Town and Country, a nice catering hall. And Mike can't go because Kaylee has a game. So I'm going to be with him at this dinner. Mike is going to be with Kaylee. But Mike also has an all-star managers meeting at 7:00. So I had to look ahead and say, okay, who do I need to ask to help me? And thankfully, Chris, I don't know, I think he'll just be home, but who do I need to ask to help?
We don't know where he'll be.
Because we need somebody to take Kaylee home from her game. So if I'm not looking at that in advance, that means I'm dumping on somebody at the last second, whether it be my mom or Pete, Mike's dad, to ask for help. And I would rather not have to do that to them.
Yeah.
So if you're looking in advance, you can say, okay, who can help me with Olivia next week on Thursday?
Yeah.
It alleviates a lot of your anxiety and also the anxiety of whoever you're asking out to help at the very last second.
Yes.
Right?
And we have that issue for next week. So excited. I told you about this.
I am excited for you.
My girlfriends and I are having a medium dinner party, and I can't tell you how excited I am about this. What's even crazier, I didn't even tell you this part yet. We had gone out to dinner a couple of months ago, and this has to do with summer transitions. Don't worry about it. But we went out a couple months ago and we ended up having a dinner for like 4 hours, and 3.5 of those hours, we were probably talking about like our medium experiences. Like we've all seen psychics or tarot card readers or whatever it is. And so we joked and we were like, if a couple of different, people that we had in mind, if they become available, we should all go to one of their sessions or their events or see if they're available for a private party. Fast forward to like 2.5, 3 weeks later, our friend texts us in our group and goes, oh my gosh, I just saw a cancellation for so-and-so, and I'm going to reach out to her and see if she's available to do a session with all of us. And so she hears from this woman. This woman goes, yeah, I'm available on the 13th of June. And it literally was a day that all of us, all 6 of us girls, had nothing to do. And we had coverage from either our husbands or whoever to take care of our kids. Synchronicity at its finest. We were like, this is destiny. We are meant to be. But before that, I have to go to a Girl Scout bridging ceremony.
Of course you do.
Of course I do. So I'm like, okay, how am I going to make this work? I'm like, well, if Joey's going to meet me there, he's going to grab Joseph from daycare. We're going to walk over to the ceremony, which is right next door to where Joseph's school is. We're going to go to that. I'm going to leave by like 5:30, 5:45, the latest, to get to my friend's house because I'm not missing a moment of this.
I cannot wait for you.
And I'm going to shoot over there, and it's like 3.5 hours long. Like Laura, I can't even tell you how excited I am about this. So I'm so pumped about it. But one of those, again, planning moments where I'm like, I have to be really intentional about the planning. I have to look ahead, and I committed before I even asked Joey, but I knew he would like totally.
You would have made that work no matter what you had.
I would have made that work. I would have hired 6 nannies. I don't care. Everybody's coming over. I would have made it work, but you have to be really intentional about the planning that you do and being thoughtful. It's not about filling up every single ounce of blank white space.
No.
Like that is something that I think that this is also an important thing to just bring up, is that I can actually find myself caught in a trap of filling up the blank space because I don't have a natural deadline actually set for myself. So on like a weekend day, even in the summer, I'll be like, let's do all the things. If I don't have like a time frame or like a specific amount of time that I'm allotting myself to do things, it will snowball. I'll be like, oh, I have time for laundry. Oh, I have time to go food prepping. You have to be a little bit more intentional about it, because that's when you can get into that trap of like, I have to do everything. And then you're exhausting yourself,
Yeah, no, I have had to walk away from the laundry and certain things in the house and just say, okay, I need to sit down. Like
Yeah.
I have 0 time for myself. So I'm going to sit down on the couch for a minute instead of, there's always something else to do, right?
Always.
You're always going to have, laundry and anything else that goes on in the house. But like you said, you shouldn't always be trying to fill up that's just a whole other.
That's a whole other topic, but it's important for summer too, because we're like, especially if you're those parents that are like, let's give our kids meaningful summers. They're doing tons of stuff with their friends, with their sports, with their people. They are having fun. You don't need to try and kill yourself by covering every second of every single day.
Yeah, and that only causes more anxiety.
Yeah.
So the way that we try at least to reduce some of the anxiety for the transition into the summer season is really by planning and looking ahead. For me, like I said, it's only a week at a time. That's all I can handle. If I have things though that I find out about, like the graduations, dates like that are important, I put them in right away. So that they're in there and I don't have to worry about it. But otherwise, if you are approaching a very chaotic season like we are in terms of the summer, where you're transitioning from school to camp or whatever you have going on, I think our number one tip would just be to sit down. It takes 3 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Look at the week ahead, see what you have going on, get it in a calendar, see where you need coverage or help. And even just doing that one thing will, I think, alleviate some of the stress of the change. So
Definitely.
we hope these tips were helpful. We thank you for spending time with us, and we'll talk to you on the next episode.